Finally, I felt it was important to talk a little bit about the swine flu pandemic because so much has been said about this virus and its potential to kill many people as we head into the fall season. Now, the White House Advisory Panel has warned that the second wave of the what's referred to as the H1N1 flu virus will be more deadly than the first, killing as many as 90,000 Americans, infecting half of the population of the United States, with millions requiring hospitalization. It's also being reported by a number of British news agencies that preparations are underway now in that country for mass burials for victims of the swine flu. Schools and colleges are gearing up for an anticipated outbreak, with a number of new illnesses already being reported in a number of colleges. The 1918 Spanish flu killed between 50 and 100 million people across the globe. Last May, we interviewed on this show Dr. Maurice Ramirez, who is a federal medical officer and a member of the American Board of Disaster Medicine. He informed us that every 97 years or so, a new viral pandemic emerges that has the potential to be deadly, especially during its second and third waves, as was the case with the 1918 Spanish flu. It's now been 91 years or so since the last catastrophic pandemic, so there is a probability of this happening again. Should we be worried about this virus mutating into a more virulent strain going into the We're being told that this is a serious matter and should not be taken lightly. Now, some have said that the virus was in laboratories as a way to reduce the world's population as part of a new world order. And then there are even reports that the military is preparing to move troops across the nation to conduct law and order during the inoculation process, which will occur sometime here in mid-October. So concern is also beginning to set in among the public, especially families with young school-age children who are at a high risk with this virus. So what's going on here, Nancy?
Well, yes. The Zetas have spoken to it because they're being asked about this quite a bit. When this recent swine flu came out, it was quite clear that it was genetically engineered. In the first place, it was a combination of bird flu and 3 different pigs, as well as human flu, and European, and Asian, and North American pigs. And they couldn't find any sick pigs. Swine flu comes from a pig, and then spreads to the workers around the pigs, and couldn't find any sick pigs. So it was absolutely clear, and I think there was one biologist that came out and said that. It was clear it was an escapee from a lab, as he put it kindly. Well, and everybody was in a panic because when it was hitting in Mexico, it was pretty virulent. There was a lot of people dying, and also young people. Now, the 1918 virus that was so deadly that you mentioned millions, or 100 million or whatever worldwide, was a combination of bird and swine and human. And it killed by affecting young people, and it was really the death.
What's happening with this flu, correct? It's affecting a lot of younger people.
In Mexico, at least that's what it was showing to be. Yeah. Yes, that it's caused by an overreaction, a very strong immune system. Young people have a very strong, in the prime of life, very strong immune system, and they really drowned. They fill their lungs with fluid and drowned as a result, because their body is going to battle and in a very strong way. Weaker people, old, very young, or whatever, sick, they don't have that strong immune response, and so they live through. Now, after it left Mexico, all of a sudden it became a very, very mild and extremely mild flu as it spread around the world and became what they called a pandemic because so many countries. It was just a sleeper. It has changed, and there's no question about this. That the statistics show that it became extremely mild after it left Mexico. The Zetas said the reason for this was that the very virulent version of that virus, genetically engineered to create what those who had engineered it hoped, a real a real wipeout of vast swaths of the populace, did not survive the people that it infected. It didn't pass human to human, and it was actually being spread originally by agents who would go in and put this on, the cafeteria for school children, or go in and smear it all over a bathroom, and they were deliberately trying to spread it up into California and the like, and all throughout Mexico. So those people, per the Zetas, who were doing this, behind the scenes, were gone after and either killed or collected or whatever, that they're no longer in operation. But basically, the World Health Organization and the CDC and the like, were just horrified that something like this could even be started and could even happen. There are plenty of signs that this kind of thing was being attempted. Way back in 2005, April 13th, 2005, from a lab in the United States, there was a release of, the 1957 Asian bird flu variety into 4,000 different test kits that went all over the world. And it was claimed not an accident by the FBI because of the controls that they have, could not have happened. They were disappointed that the current version of bird flu wasn't virulent enough to cause a pandemic, and 1957 was virulent, and they were trying to get it to set off again and run around the world. So who did that? Out of a U.S. lab during the Bush administration. Then on March 5th, 2009, it was back in December of 2008 when Bush and Cheney were still in office, Baxter, which is over in Austria, sent out combinations of various flus in a batch of flu viruses to various vaccine makers, and it was seen as like very likely that, recombinant or mutation could happen by the workers that would be exposed to this, that would create something that was a stronger virus than the current bird flu that we were having the last few years. Well, Baxter, and again, impossible to happen with the controls that they have in place. So there's two attempts to force something to happen out there in the world, right? Force something to emerge from labs, quote, by accident, right? So it was clear this Mexican flu, swine flu, was genetically engineered, but it lost its virility. So why the scramble to get all these vaccines together and all the talk about mandatory? Now, I went to the WHO website because I saw all these things. Oh, it's going to be mandatory. And I couldn't see where they said mandatory anywhere. It's a recommendation.
Not on there. I believe someone had mentioned it was on the Center for Disease Control's website that this was going to be mandatory. And then there was some reports by media outlets that this was going to be a mandatory thing come October. This is why they had mentioned the military going into large cities to restore any disruptions that may occur by people that don't want to take this vaccine.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure. I'll have to go to the CDC and look that up myself, because I myself have not seen any official terminology that said it would be mandatory. Every country seems to be saying they're going to try to have enough vaccine to do this group and that group, and it's like recommended and all that kind of thing, so nothing out of the usual. And they are reacting to fear, according to the Zetas. The WHO and these governments are saying, if somebody could pull this off in Mexico, how do we know that there's not another maniac group out there trying to create another Frankenstein monster of a virus and that will take us by surprise? They are basically trying to, build up immunity against anything that this group of maniacs in a lab might have. And they're saying, okay, we got to be immune to bird flu and swine flu. Let's bump up the immunity all we can so that these maniacs won't achieve their goal if and when they do it again.